up in the morning, I got money on my mind. So addicted to it, all I see is dollar signs. Thankful to the Lord, he let me make it through the night. So dead or alive, I'ma go and get what's mine. Everyone that pulled me back, I had to leave behind. I can't hang with niggas, I got too much on the line. Sitting at the top and I ain't even
made it, baby, we made it. We're back with another episode of Focus Friday. Come on now. Yes, sir. Alright, we're back and we are better. Everything is all good. I hope everybody enjoyed that first episode and that first edition. Now we are back with another edition with more coming on the way with the coming weeks again. Alright, this week we are talking about the one and only RK, a Swazi prominent artist, another Swazi prominent artist who has got some good music and had his debut EP, in fact 2 of them. He's had so many projects. Many people would call him a SoundCloud artist. I wouldn't call him a SoundCloud artist because there's a lot about his music that separates him from other artists. Anyway, we're going to continue that conversation in this episode. And this episode we are talking about specifically the one and only RK. Many of you people may know him from the time where I was doing my interviews and I did my rounds interviewing him. So we're talking about RK, and yeah man, it's gonna be a good one. I'm really excited to talk about him. In fact, I don't even know where to start. You know what I mean? But with RK, my first question to myself really would be, why did I choose to talk about RK today? I mean, just like I said just now, a lot of people do not know RK. A lot of people do not have sight of his music. So I thought, you know what? Let me just give everybody a sneak peek on what exactly or how much talent the country really has. And with RK, that's where the talent lies. You know what I mean? He's not the only one with talent. That's not what I'm trying to say, but there's a lot of talent that we don't know, that we lose sight of. And let me just do a quick run through on how I basically found RK, because it is quite hard to find an artist like him, in as much as some people know him but most people don't know him. And I think that's the great thing about him these days. I mean, you know him, some of you may know him, but most of you may not know him. You know what I mean? So there was this time, a lot of people would say around I think around June, where I was doing my interviews. I didn't like literally search for artists, but artists just found me. You know what I mean? So there was this time, there was this girl that I'm friends with. Her name is Awande. She told me that she's got a rapper cousin. His name is Nzaba. His real name. You know what I mean? He calls himself RK. And when I went on Instagram, I did my research. I always do my research on an artist. Did my research on him. There was this music video that really popped up in my attention. It popped up to my attention. It challenged me really, because it got to my attention and it got me like, yo, this is a guy from Swaziland. You know what I mean? So I watched that video. I was like, yo, this nigga got it. You know what I mean? He's definitely popping them bars and whatever. And I was like, wow, okay, alright. You know what I mean? And yeah, everything, then the rest was history. Set up an interview and we did it. It was great. You can check it out on YouTube. It's live interview with RK. You can check it out to just get to know a little bit more about him. Go on his YouTube page. He's got another interview that he did at his house for himself. You know what I mean? So I mean, there's that. If you really want to get to know more about him, go click those interviews and yeah, do the most. Anyway, before we get into too much detail about my relationship with him, I chose RK basically because I mean he's really talented. Besides the fact that he's actually very talented, he's quite the artist really. Honestly, he's quite the artist, and most of his music I could relate to it. But tonight, tonight. It's not tonight while I'm shooting this, but tonight while you're watching this. Tonight we are talking about specifically the Cool EP. we're gonna go deep into detail on the Cool EP Volume 1 and Volume 2 by RK. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just go on SoundCloud, search for R.K. You know, that's 2 dots between the R and K, and then the dots at the end of the K. And yeah, you'll find his music there, and you'll listen to it, and you'll realize exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, I'm gonna talk about firstly my experience, my listening experience, really, on the Cool EP Volume 1. Whoa, that EP. I have a lot to say about it, but before we get really deeper into detail, the Cool EP was basically an EP I could relate to the most. You know, there were so many tracks that I could relate to. Let me just do a run through on the tracks I could relate to and how I could relate to them. Tracks like The Party, you know what I mean? You're gonna listen to that track and you're gonna realize that, yo, you know what I mean? You know, when you're a party lover, you know, you love going out. I'm not really a type of person who really loves going out or who's always out and about, but when I'm out and about, it's out and banging, you know what I mean? So I listened to The Party, and my experience while listening to that track basically was just immense, you know, because it, especially if you could listen to that track, and especially just any type of music, listen to it with earphones on, not the speakers, not anything else, just with earphones on, you're gonna realize that you're in your own world now. And when it comes to RK's talent, it really makes you relate to it a lot more than when you're playing it on the speakers or whatever. So I was playing this track, and I remember very well, there was this day when I was playing this track. I was playing it, if I'm not mistaken, the day I was interviewing him. It wasn't the first time I played it, but I was just trying to prepare for the interview. So it was just a few days after my birthday. I was chilling with one of my executives. Shout out to him. I was chilling with him that day, I remember very well, just a few days after my birthday, and I decided, no, let's just go out and I'm gonna come back home and do the interview real quick. And when I was with him, you know, we decided, yo, I looked at the time, I was like, yo, I'm getting late. I set this thing for 4 p.m. and he was like, nah, it's cool, just play the music. And we were actually talking about him, having a conversation about him, that he's just so diverse, and the fact that he's underrated, it's the best position for him to be in, because basically when you're that underrated, you really have enough room to show people who you really are, how you really are talented. You know what I mean? I'm not really saying that he still has to prove himself to the industry. I don't think he needs to prove himself anymore. He just needs to do what he loves, which is music. You know what I mean? And which is the conversation I had in that interview with him. But really, when I played the party track, it made me realize a few things about the fact that we love parties, you know, naturally, you know, we love going out and stuff, you know, we love seeing new different people, exploring and everything. Yeah, you know what I mean? So, but that track, I never really understood the intention of that track until I had that conversation with my executive that day when I was listening to it, and I got to realize that RK is the type of artist who makes music that you can always relate to, no matter what it is. Love life, parties, or whatever, you can actually relate to his music, and each and every single piece of his art shows you a piece of his soul. You know what I mean? So when I listened to that, I was just like, wow, okay. Basically here we are being introduced to his mind. I said this last week. I had this conversation with you guys last week, when I said, when you listen to a specific project, you get introduced to an artist's world. And I'm not really gonna go deeper into detail on how you get introduced to an artist's world, because you just need to listen. You just need to sit alone in your room, look at the roof or whatever, think about what you're going through or whatever, and you're gonna realize that you're in that person's world now. You're not in your own world, in as much as you can relate your world to the world that he is introducing through his art. You are actually being introduced to his world as well. You know what I mean? So yeah, when I listened to that track, I realized that he's the type of artist that, he's very strong in making music that you relate to. Very strong. And the way he executes his art in whatever track he puts out, I think that's one of the most great talents that he has. I feel like he shouldn't lose sight of that, because when most people who listen to your music can relate to what you're saying, how you're putting it out, because also what really doesn't matter to most artists these days is the flow. You can make good music that I can relate to. You know what I mean? You can make it and I can relate to it, but it's the way you put it out there that matters. And that track really made me realize that when you flow with it very well, when you, from the background to the add-ons to the 808s or whatever, you know what I mean, the beat can be good, 808s can be just perfect and everything, but how you flow with your own track is what matters, because the flow is everything. If you mess up the flow, trust me on this, people can agree with me, people who really understand the concept of art and music can agree with me and say, if you mess up the flow, you've messed up the whole track. You can have good lyrics, you can have punchlines, as most people think that punchlines matter. You can have all that, but if the flow is not taken into notice, then you know that you didn't do justice to your art. You didn't do justice to your own music. That means you've disrespected your own art. Anyway, let me not go into my opinion, but the truth is, we all know the truth is, the flow is everything. The way you flow with your track, the way your track flows with you, and the way you flow with your track when you record it, when you write it, when you feel it inside, when you feel the blood rushing through your veins, when you actually first listen to it for the first time, you'll know what I'm talking about. So in this case, RK very steady did justice to his flow. He really paid attention to his flow, and I really give him props for that, honestly, because flow is everything. You know what I mean? And from the party to changes to crash, those are my 3 top tracks in that volume 1, and he did justice to all of those tracks. I mean, I'm not really underrating all the other tracks that he had in the EP. They're also really good, but the top 3 tracks that I really paid attention to were Crush, which really most people can understand that you can relate to it, when it comes to your crush or whatever. And it was such a nice conversation. In fact, if I can just draw back to the interview a bit, it was funny because when I asked him about that Crush track, he was just like, this is one track that really got me, you know what I mean? And how did it come about? And it's funny how he told me that it was something that he also went through, you know what I mean? And he could relate to it himself, and that's what really inspired the production and the writing and everything on that track. And for me, it was like, wow, okay. Okay, I guess now artists these days, what I've realized is artists these days, they know now how to attract their crowd. In as much as it may not be their intention to attract a crowd or a certain fan base, if people would put it like that, in as much as that is not the intention, most artists are starting to realize that making music that they have, like making music, let me just put it in this way, making concepts that they have gone through and some concept that they have seen, actually works out because most people can relate to those concepts. And you can listen closely to the youth these days and just draw back to music 5 years ago. You'll notice the difference. You go back to music that was released 5 years ago. Those are the hype tracks, the tracks where you just there for the turn up. You know, you listen to them because you want to hype to them. You listen to them because you just want to dance to them. You want to hype. But these days, what I'm realizing about most artists is that they're now going deeper into detail on what they've been through and what they've seen, and it's actually working out for them. And that's the type of mindset that we need from artists these days, to actually realize that the industry changes as the years pass by, and they have to adapt to those changes. And when an artist cannot adapt to those changes, that's when it's the death, or it's the life and death of an artist. You know what I mean? Because artists really have to adapt to the times. They have to adapt to what attracts us. Let's continue our conversation after you subscribe and click that notification bell so that you get a notification every time we release an episode, just like next Friday. We don't know what we're gonna be talking about, but that surprise is gonna be good. So click that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so we can do this again next week, same time, same place. Anyway, let's move on. But before we move on, let me just continue talking about my experience with the track Changes. As I mentioned before, my 3 top tracks, which was Changes, Crush, and The Party. Those were the tracks that I could say wow, you know, I could say wow to and say, dang, this nigga did it, you know what I mean? And he killed it. So for me, I can't really go deeper into detail on my experience or the memory that I went back to when listening to the track Changes. But for me, the thing that I picked up the most when listening to that track, especially when I listen to it now, before I did this, was, you know, the way he joined voices with Mbilo. Shout out to Mbilo. I don't really know who she is, but shout out to her if she's watching this or whatever. So, but the way he merged those two voices, his voice and Mbilo's voice, it was great, you know, and I loved it. I fell in love with the track. I fell in love with what he did there because it was beautiful. That was probably the most beautiful track that I've ever listened to in my whole life, because it was just too beautiful. It was too blissful. It was, besides the fact that I could relate to it, it was a track that really showed me that when RK really does get to his full potential and gets to unleash his full artistry, it's gonna be a problem for most rappers out there and artists. It's gonna be a problem, you know. It's gonna give them a challenge, and that's what I realized, that this guy's gonna give people a challenge. His creativity is on another level. Mind you, yes, he's been producing, and I mean, he's been making music for quite a while now. You know what I mean? But even if he's been making music for quite a while, doesn't mean that he's reached his full potential. And I'm sure if he's watching this, RK, we both know that you haven't reached your full potential. You know what I mean? And when he does, it's gonna cause problems for most artists who are actually slacking at doing what they love. And in this case, where RK is doing exactly what he loves and doing justice to his art, you know what I mean? It's gonna cause problems. You know, a lot of people are gonna be like, hey, this guy, what the hell? You know what I mean? They're gonna be like, whoa, what the hell? Because he's gonna give a lot of people a challenge. He's already giving some people a challenge, especially if you can listen to his music. I challenge all artists who are watching this right now, go watch that song or that whole EP, volume 1, before we get into volume 2 and stuff. Go listen to volume 1. go listen to volume 1 of the Cool EP by RK. You're gonna have a problem. We are gonna have a problem. The music industry in Swaziland, or in Eswatini, the new name. The music industry really, it's got some talents there, and it's some hidden talents, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have talent. That doesn't mean that we don't have talent. We do have talent, loads of it. You know what I mean? You're still gonna realize as you continue watching more of these episodes, like next week, next week, where I'm probably gonna start inviting people or calling a few people to talk about a certain topic or a certain artist or whatever. But that's a story for next week. We'll see what we can do. I bet. So yeah, man. Big shout out to RK. I can't really go deeper into detail on volume 2 because I'm running out of time, but volume 2 you just know as you listen to it, but you'll need to listen to volume 1 of the Cool EP before you listen to volume 2, and you realize that volume 1 is not complete. You know what I mean? You listen to the last track in volume 1 and you feel like you need more. And that's where volume 2 comes in. It's a continuation of volume 1, and it's some good music as well. Shout out to RK for continuing to give us good music and music that we can also relate to, because definitely I think every song that I've listened to that has his voice in it, it's a track that I can relate to. It's a track that I can bump to. It's a track that I love, like hella in love with his music there. So great props to him. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he has next. Last time we had a conversation, he said maybe an album is next, who knows. So I'll be looking forward to that. I'll be looking forward to whatever he has to offer up next. So yeah, I mean, there's that. And yeah, shout out to everyone who was involved in the production of the Cool EP. Young Swiss, shout out to Young Swiss. As he would always say, shout out to Young Swiss. You know what I mean? So so yeah, I mean, shout out Young Swiss, man. He did a great job and great justice in producing those tracks, and in actually producing probably one of the greatest EPs that we've ever heard of. So shout out to him for that. And yeah, shout out to RK, man. Big ups to RK. I can't really go deeper into detail on the type of person that RK is. It's gonna get a little bit too personal for me, because I'm definitely in love with his soul and the person that he is. So humble and so goal driven, and his passion for music, wow, crazy. He really loves what he's doing at the moment. So I'm really in love with what he's done, what he's put out, and what he's still gonna put out. Looking forward to it, definitely. And yeah, if you're watching this, RK, shout out to you, brother. You did it for me, basically. Even if you didn't do it for some people, I don't care. But as long as you did it for me, and your music continues to live on as a legacy to my soul, because I truly and greatly relate to your music, and I love it. And funny enough, I still listen to it till this day. You know what I mean? So yeah, shout out to you, bro. I really can't wait to see what you have next in bag. You know what I mean? But yeah, let's just wrap this show up. Track of the week this week, I'm leaving you with Crush. Nah, not Crush. Let's see. I got 30 seconds to think of the track of the week. Change by RK. I'm gonna leave you with that, and we'll see you guys next week, same time, 6 o'clock Fridays, same place. We premiere on Fridays 6 p.m. each week on YouTube. Click the link in our bio, and yeah, we'll do the most as well. And also remember to do that subscribe, click the notification bell so that you get a notification, just in case you forget that we're doing this at 6 p.m. Click that subscription button, and also click that notification bell so you can get a notification every time we release an episode. Anyway guys, I leave you with track of the week, Change by RK featuring Pilo, and we'll see you guys next week, same time, same place. It's your boy Steezy.
Since one in amazement in the way it all came together, had to always develop. I don't like to do the same things, my living so remains stagnant. The desire to grow has never been this massive, and the fire I wrote with the pen is a classic. But I don't see the passion in you, like what happened. You used to be so happy, you were so full of life, it would leak from the palm of your hand. Whoever you touch, you ignited the drive that they had. So I don't understand how a light like yours just vanished. Was it your parents? Was it them habits? I know this journey of life is a challenge. As I look back, I reminisce to a time when all in my mind was a view of the good and the bad side. To pursue what I do, what I love, who I lose, who I trust. The truth is that's life, and I choose this path, but I don't choose where the path lies. And every person I met telling me they ain't got theirs makes me glad that I have mine. And that's why if I could count all the grains in the sand, I'll be running out of ways for a man to come and thank his creator for the faith and the plan. I've been through a lot of things that put me on my knees for a while I wasn't able to stand. Can't say I didn't need it, did a lot of good for me, now I'm a way better man. And if it happened for me, it can happen for you. Wanna help any way that I can. In front of you is a room full of dreams, and the keys that you need have been placed in your hands. Some say it's a leap, others say it's a step. Either way you demanded to act. And why does it feel like the hardest thing you could do? But regardless, I'm going through, going all in. Life is such a trip, it's gonna take you on it. Promised you the world, but then it breaks your heart. And after all the tears and the pain is gone, things are different, but this ain't the change you wanted. And it doesn't mean that you ain't gaining from it. I remember when I had my life all planned out. Things are different, but this ain't the change you wanted. You don't need to put your mind in things you can't control. You've been holding so much in you, need to let it go. You don't need to put your mind in things you can't control. You've been holding so much in you, need to let it go.
Time after time, I find myself lashing out on everything, and that don't make no sense to me. 'Cause I've been doing things that don't make me feel any better. Keeping all this pain, wait, I don't need it anymore. I just wanna live, I know I'm meant for something better. Praying I'll be better than I've ever been before.
Life is such a trip, it's gonna take you on it. Promised you the world, but then it breaks your heart. And after all the tears and the pain is gone, things are different, but this ain't the change you wanted. And it doesn't mean that you ain't gaining from it. I remember when I had my life all planned out. Things are different, but this ain't the change